Hey guys, real quick, bit of a disclaimer for this one. This one is gonna be a bit, I guess, darker than usual because Izunami, when I first got her from my friend, I kind of wanted to give her like a darker backstory since I don't typically do those, or anything that is done is usually left up in the air, it, and so on and so forth. So it's not like directly stated, but it's also tied into some of the lore with my friend. Uh, I'll put his like YouTube channel right in front so you can see it. But yeah, he does more of the dark stuff than I do. But it's like I said, it's loosely tied to his, but it's also kind of just how she started out. So yeah, bit of a heads up for this one, okay? And we're just gonna play it by ear. But you have been warned. Hey guys, friends, members, associates of the ETS. How's it going? Elyon here. Today we're talking about a interesting woman, to say the least. She's kind of nutty. Does not like, well, she doesn't like any men really, but she straight up hates me. Well, I guess it was bound to happen eventually. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Izunami, the jackal, or Izuzu, Izuya, whichever you want to call her, really. Well, that's a lie. If you call her that, she's gonna swing on you. So yeah, call her that. I'll find it hilarious. But how her story starts, at least from what I've been told, it's not for the faint of heart. Solely because she had a rough upbringing, similar to how a lot of folks in the city do when they're down their luck. Didn't have the best parents. Dad was non-existent, and when he was, she really wished he wasn't. Let's just leave it at that with that one. Her mom was a spice fiend, and to those of you who might not know what that is, it's a powdery substance typically sold by the Demon Clan and a few other people. Let's just say it is very dangerous, very addictive, and you don't want that shit in your system. I've seen people when they're on that stuff, and boy, I don't, they are just it's weird. It's like looking at a altered hallucination of them. It just feels wrong. They also have they also sell like Apex pills or whatever those are supposed to be. But like I said, it's a weird substance stuff. I don't know too much about it. You'd have to have someone like I don't know, Lydia, Quinny, any of the people tied to those gangs, really. But Izanami's mother was a fiend that like craved that stuff, like a lot of it. When she didn't get it, she was miserable. She was violent. She was like just a problem. And when she couldn't get it herself, she well turned to her daughter. I don't really, well, I don't want to talk about what she had her do, but it must not have been nice to leave such a deeply troubled lady out here in the world. I don't even want to think about how much therapy that's going to be. But as she got older, she was a survivor, a fighter. She got into a lot of scraps back in the day. One day, though, which I found interesting, was that she came across somebody that was like just running. They were being chased, obviously, and a giant polar bear, I say not polar bear, sorry, panda bear, came over and basically just tackled the man, beat him into submission, and then tossed him in the back of a trunk. Turns out that was her first time meeting a much younger at the time Mohambu, the bounty hunter. And she was curious about what he was doing, so he loosely and briefly explained his craft. She wanted in on that because she wanted money, or more so, she felt like she needed money to get herself away from her family, so to speak. He didn't really, well, he didn't care. He was just like, I don't know you, and I'm not teaching you what I do because that just makes you competition. Also, you're too young. This is not a safe job. But she insisted by following him around constantly, till eventually he relented and he just gave her a little starting pistol and just said, here's what you do. There are notice boards all over the city. You find a target attached to one, you get it. You see any clients looking for people, you find them. You see the people they want, and you see how they want them. Dead or alive, you bring them back. You get paid, you go about your business. Because it's like kind of. Here's the thing: it's not necessarily illegal to bounty hunt people, like if they skip bail or something like that. Like, because the courts themselves can appoint them for certain things, or if it's like a private matter between like civilians, you can do that. Because like again, you're not assassinating the people; you're just bringing them back home if they run off or if they attempt to flee. But at the same time, it is technically also kidnapping at times. So like it's a bit of a case by case scenario, but she has a license, or he did, so he could get away with it. Plus, no one really wants to question the massive bear with the revolver bigger than their arm. But Izunami eventually started doing. She started off simple, small jobs here and there, people skipping court, fellow like drug fiends like her mother, simple things here and there, like people that don't put up too much of a fight. One day though, she did get snuck and almost lost her life dealing with someone that like tried to book it into a back alley. She got lucky and managed to get away, but that's when it dawned on her that yeah, that gun isn't enough. She needs to make herself way more dangerous if she's gonna get by. So she did. She found Wahambu again, and he taught her how to fight. And I think the reason he did it is because he has kids. And the way he is with his daughters, yeah, no, he definitely taught her some stuff. He even gave, from what I've heard, he even gave her first pair of knuckle dusters. Big old softy. And again, she started training herself, going to the gym, getting stronger, hitting much, much harder. And eventually, she started making a name for herself. And a couple years down, and she left her home. I think she was, from what they said, 17, but she lied that she was 18 so she could buy her own apartment. So she lived on her own, away from her family at that point. But it's funny how, when I say funny, no, it's interesting how stuff tends to happen. Because she found herself tracking somebody who was trying to hide out in the Sweet Madness where the twins are, Honey and Chaos. Problem with that being that while it is neutral ground between, crime families and stuff of that nature, the twins don't take too kindly to people trying to hide out or use their place as a little haven. Because then it just brings more attention on them that they didn't ask for. And again, these aren't their workers. These aren't people that they're trying to gain favors from. As far as they're concerned, it's just like, yeah, no. Like, violence isn't usually allowed in here. That being said, we have no reason to shelter you. Unless you're going to give us, like, a fat stack of cash, not happening. So, she storms in, and the guy panics and draws a weapon on her. They get to fighting. Bullets start going here and there. She basically dead legs him and knocks the guy to the floor and is about to drag him out when security comes to get rid of both of them because they're causing a scene and freaking out the customers. Now, Izunami is a straightforward woman. She doesn't back down from nobody, more than likely when she should as well, I'm gonna be honest with you. So she was ready to square up. And I don't know if you guys have ever met Mr. Slaps. He is a quite the heavy-handed individual. And she was essentially going to get dragged out and beaten into essentially near death. However, she was saved, or more so, the security was talked down by my friend Lottie. Lottie is a rabbit, little sweetheart, does yoga in her free time, pretty flexible woman, but she also works at the club. That is where her and Izunami kind of met. from what she tells me, it was a bit of a rocky start to this scenario because Izunami was nowhere near as well. I can't even say nice because she's never been nice to people, friendly or approachable as she is now, at least towards Lottie. Everyone else, she just kind of tells them to fuck off, which, yeah, fair enough. So, yeah, at that point, it was like, all right, well, you two know each other now. They go their separate ways for a while, but Izunami's determination and, like, I guess you could say tenacity caught the attentions of the twins. So, they sent Lottie to invite her back to the club for some work. They offered to pay her more than what she was making with the courts if she'd be able to be on their hired hand, so to speak. And at first she declined it. She didn't like the idea of working with the twins, not because they were corrupt or evil. She didn't give a shit about that. She just didn't like being told what to do outside. And she has like problems with authority and those that tend to abuse it. And she knows how the twins are, so she doesn't really like them. Eventually, though, they kind of got her to change her mind, so to speak. Same thing, though. They were just sending her after people that couldn't pay or that people that owed their club a debt. She finds them, brings them back, gets paid, goes about her business. Sometime during all those interactions, though, her and Lottie started getting a lot friendlier towards one another. Maybe it was the little glances here and there. Maybe it was just the tension between them. I don't know. They kind of just, well, I'm not gonna say what they did, but I mean, I'm sure you guys can, put the little pieces together yourselves. And so started their very, very, I'm not gonna say toxic, rocky relationship. We'll say that. But during that time, one of the people that Izunami was supposed to bring in was the son of a not necessarily, well, not a crime lord, like I guess a smaller tier mob boss. He didn't necessarily run the city, but he did have his own fair share of influence. And yeah, he was a kind of the equivalent of like a small to mid, like, drug kingpin of sorts. So yeah, Izunami didn't care, especially because she doesn't like Spice or any of the people associated with him. So she took the guy, started to bring him in. He tried to run, she killed him. That led to the man's father putting a hit on her. And during that time, she ironically ran into Typhon. And he even showed her a few things there and there as like because this was around the time before he started getting heavy into his assassination stuff, where he was more willing to pass along some of the things his master had taught him, because his master was very big on, expanding the teachings of his school that he was in, or at least with the dojo. So he showed her a few extra things here and there. Just a few other ways to hit harder, move faster, and essentially just really put the beat down on people bigger than her, because she's always punching above her weight class. So eventually, her and Lottie kind of come to this essentially a agreement of sorts. Izunami and her move in, they kind of do their own thing, but she doesn't want her killing any more people. Like, bring them in if you can unharmed, but she doesn't want to see bodies piling up everywhere because, yeah, like, yes, we know your job is dangerous. You have to defend yourself. But, like, if you're going to find a client and capture them, just try not to, like, empty one into their head beforehand. That was the deal. Nice, straight to the point. Problem with that was because they had gotten so close, the crime lord had essentially noticed that because he was having her be followed. So he sent his people one day to essentially abduct Lottie. And that was a problem for a multitude of reasons. Because I'm not saying she's like the most important person in that club, but it's definitely gonna be noticeable when she doesn't show up for work. And so Lottie was gone. They didn't know what happened to her. Izunami got pissed. She stormed into the club, started demanding answers, and essentially threatened to shoot the place up if they couldn't produce her or help her find who did it. Now, the problem with that is one, they took one of the clientele of the twins. So they took that as a slap in the face. Two, she was not only friends with a good chunk of people in the club, one of which was Lydia, who also at the time was still friends with Quinny, and also, but this was before she and Typhon started talking, but she also had backup if need be. So a group of those people essentially put together a plan to get her back. Izunami went off on her own to go find her, though, started basically tearing through the city trying to find her. And then she gets a tip off from the twins where Lottie might be getting held up. Because the man wanted Izunami specifically to come looking for her, which she did. And, as expected, it turned into a gunfight. But Izunami got overwhelmed by the numbers and got captured. And it was gonna it wasn't gonna go pretty for her because she started getting tortured and beaten on because the guy wanted some payback, and you can guess what his intentions were with both of them at that point. However, that part never came to be because, like I said, the second the twins knew where they were, they sent their own people to go get them back. So all Izunami technically did was one, give their position away a lot quicker, like the people she was going after, I mean. And two, leave them exposed to be taken out. And pretty much as quickly as they arrived, it was bodies hit the floor, and then Lydia kicked the door in with her crew, untied them, got them out. But that being said, now came a secondary issue because Lottie got shook up after that, like bad. It wasn't even the fact that she was gonna be killed. That guy. It was the fact that they could have been there for so long. Like she essentially just got like brief PTSD off that stuff. So her and Izunami had a bit of a falling out after that, and took them like a couple months in between all that till they started even remotely trying to look at each other again. And when they did, I guess Li's a lot nicer than she would have Izanami expected because she apologized for everything, and they kind of just had like this real emotional moment, or so she tells me. And so they made up, and Izanami wanted to go back home and confront her family, and also beat the shit out of her dad. So Lottie went with her, and she had her own, I guess, pseudo intervention. Turns out, yeah, no, her dad got arrested and is currently rotting in jail after trying to knock off a store. And well, the mother was bitter. She was a mean, bitter old bitch, but she was actually surprisingly clean. She had shook off that stuff after a long while because of just how bad it was affecting her. But she didn't feel bad for what she did to her daughter. So Izunami confronted her, cursed her out, and was real tempted to put a bullet in her head, but Lottie talked her out of it. So they went back home after that. And nowadays she works for the twins, and she even helps Lottie out from time to time at the yoga studio. She doesn't really know, I think, how to live a calm or even normal life, really, with everything that's ever happened to her. I think a little bit of noise would do her some good. But being a bounty hunter, ironically, does get you your fair share of enemies, because not everyone likes getting brought in, and sometimes they got friends. But never made no difference to her. One more body for the pile, essentially. And quite frankly, I don't know. As a troubled soul, if anything, I just really hope she'll be okay down the line. She might not like me, but I can't help but sympathize. I got my own fair share of demons to deal with, and even my own family might not be that bad, but they ain't exactly good people. But Lottie's a good soul, so maybe she'll lead her down a brighter path in the future. Hell, from what Lydia told me, they were having a movie night the other day, or a little date night, so, a little bit of normalcy would do them some good. Hmm, maybe I should send Boo over there, see if they can hang out together. Maybe do something productive, like, I don't know, put a car together or go to the gym.